Welcome everyone. I'm Andy Norton. I'm the Director of Research for ODI and delighted to welcome you to this, well, it's really, I guess, one of a series of launches for a book I thoroughly recommend, Ian Goldin's Divided Nations, Why Global Governance is Failing and What Can We Do About It. Before we go into the main part of the meeting, if I can just remind everyone to, put your mobile on silent or switch it off or whatever you need to do with it. And let me begin now by welcoming Professor Ian Goldin, who is Director of the Oxford Martin School and Professor of Globalisation and Development at Oxford University. Previously, he was Vice President and Director of Policy at the World Bank after serving as advisor to President Mandela and CEO of the Development Bank of South Africa, among other things. And most importantly of all, he's a member of ODI's Council, which I have to say. One of his previous books, Globalisation for Development, was described by Joe Stiglitz as essential reading. And if you look at the dust jacket for this one, you'll find a similar level and order of endorsement. Lord Stern comments that Ian Goldin has been in the kitchen at a senior level of national and international policy making. And it's that kind of deep familiarity with global policy processes that makes this book, in my view, a very intriguing and informative read. There are lots of kind of vignettes. I think one of my favourite ones was, I'm not quite sure what your evidence is, but the proposition that Canada and Russia quite fancy global warming. That behaves some of their, that explains some of their positioning around the debates around climate action. And I'd like to add that there's much in this book which goes beyond the narrow understanding of the title on global governance, reflections on the changing nature of global challenges and the growing list of obstacles like inadequate skills, timeframes and complexity that public institutions face in trying to deal with them. So welcome Ian, I'm very pleased to have you here. I'll also introduce, before we move on to the main part of the discussion, I'm delighted to have as discussant Simon Maxwell, former director of ODI, of course, with a long-standing interest in issues of global governance. And Simon, who's an economist, began his career working for the UN Development Programme and then in Bolivia for the UK Bilateral Aid Programme. And he was 16 years at IDS before he joined ODI as director. I don't want to take up more airtime at this point. We're delighted to have you here, Ian. Why don't you start your presentation now?